Hello, 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 hello. Well, I have been hiding for 3 days, so just going to say hello because I know a couple of people do actually like to come on these lives. I don't know how many people actually watch them. I don't really look at that sort of stuff. I leave that all down to Amber. But Amber is going to be changing positions with us as well because things are just not working. So I have literally had 3 days of sitting here on my sofa with my legs up and my Red X sleeping bag. And do you know what's been the most beautiful thing about it? Is I've had Shiloh here in one arm, and I've had Elijah here in the other on what he calls Ninin. And all we've been doing for 3 days is I've been a right lazy cow. Like, seriously, I have done absolutely fuck all. Apart from in the evenings where we've gone to one of the community food evening meal things. So yesterday we went to Portsmouth Football Club at the community centre for spaghetti bolognese and lots of sweets and lots of cakes. So we've had lots of apple crumble to eat today and munch through, and then we went over to King's Church for what they do is it's like all recycled food and they put it together and make a meal, and it's meant to be for the community, but obviously it's a mixed match whether or not it's homeless or things, but it's meant to be for the community, for everybody. So literally, my friend Scott will get this. So for the last 3 days, I have been what we call a lazy cow. See, in Scott's world, everybody has to be rhinos and keep going and charging. And I've always had a go at my mum over this, by the way, because it's my mum who's always lived by Rhinoceros success. And she's always been absolutely in awe of Scott Alexandra, who wrote Rhinoceros Success. She wasn't too happy when I introduced them for her birthday present, but there you go. So anyway, for the last 3 days, I've just been a right lazy cow. And the funny thing is my home stayed in order. I've had a little bits of, in fact, this is the end of today. So I have a few cars on my floor, if you can see. So that is pretty much the tidying up that exists from today. I have no washing up to do because obviously we've eaten out on my lazy days, even if it has been free food in the community centres. Worth going to, by the way, because they are not just for homeless, by the way. It is for the community. And actually, even if there is somebody there, you can have some of the best conversations you ever have with probably somebody that the majority of society would completely judge. And in fact, I was talking to a guy on the way in today because there was a bit of a queue going in for coffees and stuff. And obviously, as you know, I had a bit of a rant about Portsmouth Council today, and rightfully fucking so, because I've had enough of this line, and I'll get into this conversation, but I've had enough of this line where people, I'm talking kids, I'm talking adults, I'm talking people, where people have actually taken the time to go to the doctors, find out something that's wrong with them, or born with a diagnosis. And I'm not talking about labels here, I'm actually talking about real diagnosis of stuff. And I'm not saying that some of it can't be treated, it can, blah, 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 blah. But when somebody has a weakness, a limitation, or a lack of resource, knowledge or understanding of something, I'm laughing because I've had this film on for 3 days. And even though I've had this film on for 3 days, over and over and over and over again, yes, it's been the same fucking film, I still watch it as if I have only seen it for the first time. But anyway, every single one of us has a gap between where we are and where we want to be. That gap usually exists that the majority of people don't actually know where they want to be. And majority of people live to the life that they were given. And something really cool about this isolation, like I haven't been doing lives. The only reason I did a live today was just that I didn't actually even want to do it to the guys that were out there, because they've got nothing to do with it. They're just doing their job, bless them, cotton socks. And I actually thought it was going to be the other two out there. And I think they knew it was going to be coming. And I wanted to just video normally. But the fact is, I am dealing with this shit every day. Like, it's 3 years ago this month now since they really started fucking about with me here in Portsmouth, right, with really, really, really silly things. And on the Sunday they took my car. On the Monday they suspended all my housing benefit and everything. On the Tuesday I think I got called in, and then all this stuff started with all this marker and job centre again in the glass house and all this shitty crappy stuff again. I'm still in the glass house. I don't go to the job centre because I'm in the glass house, because actually I'm going to set up an appointment into the job centre purely so you can see what happens, and I'm going to live it the whole way purely to protect my family. But what I might have to do in order to do this is make sure Elijah and Shiloh are not with me, because I think the moment they lock Elijah and Shiloh behind the glass with me again, I think I'm likely to smash the fucking glass windows through, because it is the most horrendous thing to put somebody like me through, and it's abusive and it's criminal and it has to stop. I've seen other people have to go through it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, when you go to the job centre, you'll always see a glass side room, right? And this glass side room is for any person who has a marker put on them, right? And literally, the moment you enter the job centre, you have to go into this space. You're not allowed to enter any of the rest of the space. You have to go into this markered room. That then means that the person comes around the other side of the counter to speak to you, but you don't have access to the rest of the thing, and you're actually locked in, and then you're unlocked to take out, right? Now, the first time I came to Portsmouth, I was put in, Dean couldn't believe it. The very first day we got here to Portsmouth, a marker had been put on me immediately, and I went into this glass room. And the thing that I'm getting so angry about, and the thing that's infuriating me more than anything, is because people are crossing over a line in my life that is causing significant abuse to me and my kids. And that boundary is being crossed by campaigners. That boundary is being crossed by every single person who's come in to this network, heard my story, and gone off and done their own shit that sabotaged the work that many of us have done for a very, very long time, especially to the newbies that have come in. Yeah, you've ended up sabotaging a lot of work, and there's a lot of people out there telling people that the inquiry is over, it's done. And there's a lot of people telling people not to get involved in this inquiry. I've worked tirelessly since the day my children were taken, pushing and pushing and pushing, because I know that my kids are caught up in a bigger picture than just me as an individual case, proving it through an individual case. And all that would happen is I would win my case, and I will win my case. I'm very easy to win my case. It's just that it's never been presented in the way that it needs to be presented. And one of the challenges that we have with our judiciary system is you're either bringing a criminal charge or you'll bring a private prosecution. Oh, sorry, I've got to show you this. Let me just show you what I watch all day. I love love. Seriously, I love love. I love marriage. I love families. I love communities. I love all that stuff. And I love this world that exists where people come together and bring the best out of each other. And one of the reasons that I love Step Up, and Step Up, for those of you who don't know, is 3 films that are about dancing, but I'm on number 1. I do love them all and I've got them down there, but I got stuck into this one because one of the things that I love about this is you've got people from the Bronx with ambition, talents and dreams, and then you've got people from the higher classes who daddy just pays their way all the way through, and then you've got the people that people judge that they're not from the poverty and they're not from the spoon in their mouth, and they struggle in ways that you couldn't imagine that they struggle. But it takes, like, look at this, this is one girl's dream. All those people have come together to make one girl's dream come true, right? She's got to get to the next level. She doesn't get a scholarship, she doesn't get to the next level. If she doesn't get this free ride, so to say, to the next level, in her thinking, I'm thinking through the dancing schools and education and all that sort of stuff. But in her mindset, she wants to go to this dance school. And to do that, she has to put on this performance. And where you were seeing her dance earlier with, like, Chanham, it was a dream and ambition that she'd had for years, that she danced on her own, to then want to be able to dance it with a partner, but had a dream of having an orchestra of dancers. And it's taken for all of them people to come together to make that dream come true. But in order for him to make that dream come true, he has to learn something new and adapt to it. And the reason that I like these films, I know they're only films, Cloud Cookie Land and all that sort of stuff, but the reason that I like these films and these sort of stories in real life is because, like, even here, that man's just been fucked over by the person he's been playing music with that whole time. And actually, he couldn't have sung his song without the man who'd been producing the music all the way. And he's ended up cutting up all of his mates to get to where he wants to get to. And this brings me back to the rhino thing and why I've never liked this whole rhino philosophy, and why also, you know, me being a lazy cow and all that in the title, is that when people take this rhino attitude, they charge through life without any consequences and without looking back at any of the devastation that they cause. If you see rhinos charge, yes, they get their head down, yes, they focus, and yes, they charge, but what they do is they tear up the fucking ground around them and cause a lot of chaos and devastation as they do this, and they don't ever look back to see the kamikaze that they've caused around them. And it's the same with people who are very hungry in their careers, you know, and very self-centered and very me. And if anybody's ever seen the cartoon Cars, then you'll know that Lightning McQueen was a self-centered, arrogant prick. Okay, he was winning his races, but he was going out there and sliding it and taking risks and taking gambles that ultimately shot himself in the foot. And he sabotaged his team. And it does take a team. But what's really, really important about this team is that it's working in line with every person bringing what they have to the table to make something great. But ultimately, you will either work for one person You will either be employed to build somebody else's dreams, or you will go out and you will make your own. And one of the reasons that I struggle with not being around people who are entrepreneurial mindset, again, it's a label, entrepreneur, it just means we're multiple sourcing, is that, like, even in this film, okay, you can either be a dancer, a music producer, or the singer, but you can't be all of them. And through this, say, whether it's the consequences of Agenda 21, or whether it's part of it, or if it's just the way things have gone, we, the individuals, have been brainwashed, so to say, to believe that we take the quote, jack of all trades, master of none. And why we have these degrees, masters, PhDs, and all of that sort of stuff, is that you're, like, stay with state education over private education. Like, if you go to private education, then you will have opportunities like going snowboarding and skiing and jumping, and you go out on school trips like quite a lot. Whereas when you're in state education, you get to go to a museum probably once a year. So you'll do a history trip, you'll do a geography trip. If you're lucky, you might do a foreign exchange. I mean, if you're really lucky. I don't know where foreign language sits in our education, it's academics now, but I don't know where it sits there. I know when I was at school, they literally, the Labour Party had just crushed it and taken it as a compulsory thing out. And I know when Liam and Daniel were at school, I think it was just a flexible option. They didn't have to take any particular language. So I don't know now where it sits with it. But when you're in mainstream education, you literally get a history and a geography field trip within that whole term. Now, homeschool kids do that on a daily basis, but you're groomed. We are groomed. I am groomed. Well, I've fought and resisted this my entire fucking life. It's been my bane of my life. It's what I've struggled with every day of my life, to not be pushed down this rat race, cellular, go get a just over broke job to pay your just over expensive bills, to not actually live a life, to literally get 26 days a year to thrive and do what you love. But majority of people can't take those 26 days because they're either having to take them as extra paid holidays because their kids have been sick off school, or a doctor's appointment's come off and they've had to take one of their holidays. So ultimately then they're left with maybe 13 or 14 days if they're really lucky. And then from that, they're only getting, say, I don't know, maybe enough time to get home and maybe decorate their living room that they haven't done, and they really want to get it done, and they've been saying that this is going to happen, and they might get the paints, but actually they really can't afford, because as much as they'd love to really do that living room out right now, they're thinking that the kids need school shoes, and they've got uniforms, and going to go back to school, and they're going to need trainers, and maybe you can't quite get them curtains, and maybe you can't change the couch over white the way that you really thought that you might be able to do it. So it becomes an incompleted project yet again. And if you're lucky, if you're fucking lucky, you might even go to Portsmouth for a week. Hey, come to Portsmouth for a holiday for a week. And that actually is a lot of people's lives. They might get camping over in France. And that's privileged. That's fucking privileged. To have a caravan and to be able to go off and go over to France or do something during that, 2 weeks, or go camping, is a massive, big privilege. That's something I like to do on a weekend, on a weekly basis. Certainly not something I want to do once a year. If you're lucky, Benidorm, we were one of the families who got to go to Benidorm that year. You know, I remember what it was like at school, being able to go to Benidorm when, you know, Bognor Regis, just down here, was the destination for holiday at Pontins for people. And I'm not saying that that's not... How do you do this without sounding patronising and condescending? And without sort of saying to someone that the life that you've been living has been not even 10% of what you're worth. And I find it really frustrating. And one of the reasons that I created Challenge Britain in the first place was because one thing that really sat with me through all the coaching, through everything that I'd done, was, where did my belief systems come from? And when I sacked psychology off. I sacked psychology off and went over to the coaching world. And it really, really, really stuck with me the first day I was ever asked where my belief systems come from. And it completely fucking, like, seriously rocked my brain for ages. It was the same as when I went for counselling and she asked me how did I feel about this, and realising that I'd been conditioned to 3 generic emotions: happy, sad, angry, and that was pretty much it. And I had to get my whole head around all these different feelings and emotions that existed that I didn't have language or understanding